Good morning. I'm Wayne. This is Amigos Dive Center, and we're here on a beautiful spring morning, June of 2012, and we're making an infomercial on the Tri-Hunter 6000. Either for those of you that are thinking of purchasing this product, or those of you that have already purchased it, this would be how you set it up and use it. So the first thing that we would want to do is hook up the on-off switch. All the parts are provided for you in the kit that we sell you. And the on-off switch looks like this. It's simply a magnetic switch that picks up a signal from the current in the compressor. And the way we would hook this up is unhooking or undoing the compressor, taking whatever power panel or panel we have to get to, and inside the compressor there will be two power wires, and we need to unhook one of the wires that has the main power to the compressor, so that when the compressor is on, there's power going through this switch, and when the compressor is off, there's no power going to the switch. You can also notice that we have the black and red connectors, and we'll later show you where those connectors connect to the box that controls the flow of the gas. We're now going to show you a little more detail of how to hook up the magnetic switch, which has the black and red ends, which has the corresponding end that connects to it here, and what we call the jack that fits into the side of the box that makes the box operational. This is the power to the box that enables the solenoids to turn on when there's power to the compressor, and immediately shuts the solenoids off, stopping the flow of oxygen and helium when the compressor stops. So what we'll do first is hook up our red magnetic switch, and if you can see, it has a hole that goes right through the middle of the switch. And by running a wire through that hole that has power when the compressor is on and no power when the compressor is off, and it's always best to run one of the main power wires that's to the compressor switch through this to make sure that you have the current that you need. So we have unhooked one of the main power wires to our compressor switch here, and to make this switch activated, we take the wire off of the switch, run the wire through the hole of the magnetic switch, and then plug the wire exactly back in where it came from. And then tighten that wire down. All right, our switch is now operational. Also included in the startup kit is the other end of the wire, and then the connector that goes to the box that we'll hook up in a minute. So now we'll hook up the black and red connector over here. And we'll run the wire out of the compressor. In our case, we've already got one run out, but find a hole or drill a hole where you can run this wire out, and then eventually it'll run over to the control box. Now that we have that done, buckle our compressor back up. When we started our procedure, in the interest of safety, we disconnected power to the compressor so that while we were hooking up our voltage wires to the compressor switch, which is the red switch with the hole in it that we've shown you how to use, we disconnected the compressor. Now that all of our connections are back together and where they should be, we're going to reconnect the power to the compressor. And now the compressor is ready to turn on, and the box will be ready to use while the compressor is running. And we're ready to hook up the stick. This is the main body of the Tri-Hunter 6000. At the top we have the helium injection with our mixers. And then we have sensor 1, which is the top sensor. And then below that we have our oxygen injection with the mixers, and then sensor 2. We'll attach this to the wall. In this case I have to take the filter off because we've got some screws that are right up at the top of it. Filter can go back on. And now we'll make an attachment from the stick to the compressor using some PVC or flexible pipe. There's already a rubber connector here and a piece of tubing on the compressor where you've removed the original air filter, put on a piece of tubing that corresponds to that size pipe, and then made whatever bends or angles that you need from hose or PVC from the mixing stick to the compressor. All right, we've now made our connection from the stick to the compressor, and now we'll hook the box to the wall. Presently we have two different versions of the box, or what we call the ackee blend, and which meters in the oxygen and helium and comes up on digital numbers here, and we'll show you how to hook this on. Okay, we've now finished hooking the ackee blend box to the wall, and now we will hook in our power supply. This is the other end of the gray wire that had the black and red connector on it, which is hooked to the on-off switch inside the compressor. And on the side of the box, there's a place that's marked compressor. And this will only fit in one place. There's basically 3 connections on the box, and none of them match each other. They only match the corresponding correct place to put this. So on the side of the box is a place marked compressor, and we're going to hook that in now. So that's now hooked to the compressor, so it turns on and off when the compressor is on and off. Then we have a power supply here with our other part of the connector. This is a 110 volt to reduce down to 1 amp or 1.5 amps. We make that connection, and then it plugs into the side of the box like so. And now the box is turned on and operational. Underneath the box, it's clearly marked which tubes are in and out. So you come from an oxygen source or a helium source to the in of the box, and then from the other side out of the box to the stick. So we'll make those connections now. I've already pre-cut the correct length of tubing. This is for the oxygen. And then this other piece of tubing goes out of the box and quick connects to the one that's marked oxygen. We do the same thing with the helium. Helium in. And helium out into the stick. The next thing we'll do is we'll add in the sensors. There are two kinds of sensors, but they both basically do the same thing. One of the sensors comes in a box like, or a tuna can like this. It's sealed up. This is an R17D or equivalent. Has a little banana plug on it and a tip that screws on. The other sensor is just a little more oblong in shape, but it's the same thing. So now we'll plug in our sensors. They're both oxygen sensors, so it doesn't matter which one plugs in where. Then we have our oxygen and helium cables here. They're also interchangeable. We've got them color coded and marked. The green ends are for oxygen, which is sensor number 2, and the other ends are for the helium, which is sensor number 1. So the green plugs into sensor number 2 and then color coordinates to the green. And then the other cable plugs into here and plugs into the top sensor, which is for the helium. So now our system is operational as far as hooking it to the wall and from the wall to the stick to the compressor. So now we'll hook up some oxygen and helium regulators to a source, which is right behind us here, and show you how that goes. Now we're going to show you how to hook up the oxygen and helium regulators. They'll look like this, and except for the connection, which varies by different countries and so forth, but here in the States we have either a male or female for oxygen and helium. This happens to be an oxygen regulator, and it has the female fitting on it. The helium regulator will have the male fitting on it so that the two regulators cannot be mixed up, therefore theoretically at least preventing the gases from getting mixed up that you might be using. So these regulators can go on either a liquid oxygen that we have here. Here's one regulator already hooked up, or it can go into the what we call high pressure oxygen, or the regular oxygen that we use, which is aviators breathing oxygen. So we'll hook the regulator on, give it a tighten down, and then we can take the other end of our oxygen hose or helium tubing that we're using, and I'll turn this so you can get a better shot. Right here is a quick disconnect, the same ones that we use on the stick and the bottom of the box and on our regulators. And to connect this, you simply put in and push, and it's connected. And to disconnect this tubing, you push up on the tab and slide the tubing out. That's how it locks and unlocks. So once it's there, we can turn on our oxygen, and I think this bottle is pretty much empty, but if not, we set our regulator here, the pressure, to somewhere between 30 to 60 psi. If you're running one compressor, 30 psi is plenty, which I think corresponds to like 2.5 bars. So this is how we make our connection that runs back to the AccuBlend box that then runs to the stick and then makes our mix to the compressor. So the next thing we'll do is be turning on the compressor and showing you how to turn on the box as well, and introduce you to the 6 safety features that are programmed into the AccuBlend box. The next step that we're going to show you is the workings of the box, the safety features, some of the on-off switches, and other buttons that we operate here. The first one that we'll turn on is the one that's marked power. It's red and it has a little lightning bolt on it. So if we just touch that switch, the box will come on. It'll tell you what version that we're working with here on the AccuBlend. It'll then turn off for a few seconds as if it's doing a self-diagnosis, and then it turns back on and it gives you a message. The top message says up turns on the gas, and that's the up arrow which it's referring to. And the bottom one says cal equals calibration. On the right hand side of the box there's a yellow tab or a button that is into 2 parts, and it says, the top of it says calibrate, which gives you the option of manually calibrating both sensors to air. This is best done when the compressor is running and the box won't turn on until the compressor is running. And the bottom half of the switch, which is really one and the same, is you push and hold for auto calibration. This takes maybe 10 or so seconds, and when the compressor is running, you push and hold the auto calibrate button, and both sensors will then calibrate to air, and hold that button for approximately 10 seconds or so until it tells you calibration is complete. Once that calibration is complete on both of the sensors, the number 1 and 2, or upper and lower sensors, then it will give you the next message, which is up turns on the gas. And that will then open up the solenoid valves that are inside the box that will allow the gas to flow from our source into the box and then out of the box into the stick so that we can start making our calibrations. So for any of this to work, though, the compressor actually has to be running. So before we get to that part, I will tell you about some of the other built-in safety features that the AccuBlend box has. One of the things that it does is that it immediately shuts off the flow of gas to the stick and to the compressor in one of 6 ways. If you touch the power switch, it will shut off. If the O2 sensor wire comes unplugged, it will immediately shut off. If you touch the auto calibrate button, it will shut off. If it loses power through the source, it will stop. If the compressor quits running, it will stop. And if it reaches 39.9% or roughly thereabouts, it will stop, as it will not allow you to make any oxygen mix greater than 40%. So those are the safety features that are built into the AccuBlend to our system. The next part of our demonstration will be turning on the box and operating the various buttons that are on it. So as we had already talked about just a minute ago, the power button is here. You turn on the power button. You start your compressor. And then once it runs through a few seconds of diagnosis here on the box, the next thing you would do is on this yellow button, reach up and hold for auto calibrate. And a few seconds later, it'll say calibration complete. And the next message that comes up on the box is up turns on the gas, yellow up arrow being that signal. And we've already done our calibration. So if the compressor were running now, we would touch the up button, which would then open up the solenoids inside the box and allow our gas flow to come through. As of yet, we haven't turned on the gas for the oxygen or the helium, but now would be the time to do that. So we would walk over to our source and turn on the oxygen or helium, whichever we needed, and then we would make our adjustment at the regulator of the source to somewhere between 30 to 60 pounds, or approximately 2 bars to 4 bars, or roughly thereabouts. And then we use the 2 knobs here. The one on the left is for the oxygen, one on the right is for the helium, and then we would adjust these knobs accordingly until we have the mix that we're shooting for. Here in our area of Florida, with the caves that we dive and the various things that we do, somewhere between 30 to 32% is our preferred mix. And so we would dial in, here at Amigos we use 32%. So we would dial in here until we have the mix that we're looking for, and the needle valves, or the other box that we also have here has actually pressure regulators on it, small regulators, can dial into tenths of a percent. The one thing that I probably need to tell some of the owners of the stick, if they have the newer style stick, such as these, is that they also have needle valves here on the side that more finely controls the gas that's coming out of the box and into the stick. And the way you would adjust this needle valve is that you would pop the handle out, and on this one, turning it to the right or clockwise increases the pressure, and you would increase the pressure. The first thing you would do before you start, it would be to unloosen the lock nut, tighten up the needle valve all the way in, and then while the compressor is running, slowly start backing the needle valve out until the box is showing you that the oxygen level is too high, which will be approximately 39.9% or 39.8%. Once you've done that, you can then lock in the lock screw on the oxygen side, and you now know that the needle valve is tuned to the amount of cubic feet going through the compressor or the air being pulled through the stick, and also with the maximum setting. Then you can back off the valve until it drops below 39%. When the box reaches the 39% or almost 40% that shuts it off, it will put a message up and says oxygen level is too high, and up turns on the gas. So since the box is shut off, you'll then have to touch the yellow up arrow again to turn it back on, and then it will then give you the oxygen reading that it has. So if you wanted to manually calibrate your sensors, you would just briefly touch the calibrate button instead of holding it down like we did for auto calibrate, and sensor number 1 will flash. You can then use the up and down arrows to raise or lower the percentage on that sensor until it's locked in at 20.9 or roughly 21%. Then if you touch the auto calibrate again just one more time, it will then go over to sensor number 2, and then you can also use the up and down arrows to manually calibrate that sensor as well. The third touch of the calibrate button will then take you back to the screen where it says up turns on the gas, and when you then touch the up arrow, then both sensors will show what they're calibrated to. You can repeat this process as many times as you need, or whatever you need to do to get your 20.9% here on the 2 sensors. And once you have that, now you can turn on the source of oxygen and or helium to make the mix that you want, and the numbers will come up on the screen exactly as you would write them if you were putting a label on your tank, such as 2130 or 1740 or 1550 mix that you might want. So that is pretty much an overview of how the box works, the AccuBlend, and the needle valves and the adjustments here. So now we're all operational. We're going to turn on the compressor and get it started, and then show you the controls on the box. With every Tri-Hunter 6000, you get a jump drive, and on this jump drive is a lot of information about the stick, including an owner's manual. But also included on this jump drive, which goes into your personal computer, are some charts that help you blend gas if you want to use air or nitrox as your blending gas. For instance, the chart that I'm holding here is an air top-up chart, starting with 21% air and going up to 90% O2. It's in easy-to-read format, and we've put stripes on, blue stripes on the most popular gases, which would be like 32, 36, 50, and 80%. So it makes it easy for your eye to catch. We've also printed out the nitrox 32 chart for blending mixes above the technically 40% or 39.9%, at which point the box shuts off and won't go higher. So if you need to make mixes higher than that, you can use the charts, which are included on the mixing stick for air, 30%, 32%, 34%, 36, and then there's also a tri-mix mixing chart. The great thing about some of the information on this stick is that there is a blending program which allows you to give the program some information, such as what is the mix that's in your tank in O2 content, and also the pressure. And then tell it what mix you would like to have, for instance, changing nitrox to tri-mix, and at what pressure you would like to have it. We've included those charts in bar and PSI, so it's easy to use for everyone. And with the regulators that we're using, when you hook up to the oxygen and helium, it makes it possible to literally empty that bottle of oxygen or helium that you're using without the use of a booster pump or a Haskell, and so that you literally get all of the gas that you've paid for out of the bottle by running it through the compressor, through the stick, and into the bottle or bank that you would like to mix your gas in. For many years I've mixed partial pressure mixes, tri-mix especially, which would take anywhere from upwards of 2.5 hours. And now we're doing that same mix to a greater degree of accuracy, literally in a matter of minutes. And as I said a minute ago, we are literally emptying the bottle of oxygen and helium, and therefore we get what we've paid for without sending it back to the gas company. So all the information is here. We'd like to thank you for your purchase of the Tri-Hunter 6000. Our website is www.amigosdivecenter.com. And again, I am Wayne. Thank you for listening. It's been my pleasure to be with you today, and I hope that you enjoy the use of your mixing stick and that it will save you time and money. Finally, we'd like to show you our various products that we build, from the 1-inch stick all the way to the 3-inch stick that can handle anywhere from approximately a 3 cubic foot compressor all the way up to approximately 50 or so cubic feet compressors. This is the 1-inch stick that would be mounted to the wall for very small compressors. This is also the 1-inch stick in a Pelican box, which is carry-on legal on an airplane. And this is our portable or expedition model. And it will also handle somewhere in the 3 to 5 cubic foot compressor range. Then, probably the most popular one is our 2-inch mixing stick, which handles the K14s, K15s, and upwards of about 18 to 20 cubic feet a minute. And then we have our largest mixing stick that we make is a 3-inch stick, which will handle 50 cubic feet compressors. We haven't had a chance to try it yet, but we think it might even go upwards of just slightly over 50 cubic feet if need be. This 3-inch stick handles the 30 to 35 cubic feet, even upwards of 40, and then if we need to, we can go to the larger compressors as well. So that's an overview of our products. We're also in development of a 1.5-inch stick that sort of fits in between the 1 and the 2. We're sort of in the experimental stages with that now, but we have really high hopes, and we think it's going to work out just fine. So we've got a couple of them out there now being beta tested, and it looks like it's going really well. So again, thank you. Hope you enjoy your Tri-Hunter, and contact us anytime.